Good morning and welcome to the Windward Buddhist Temple Family's Dharma Service. My name is Linda and I will be your MC. We will begin with the ringing of the temple bell or Kansho that signifies the beginning of our temple service. It is a deep and sacred ritual steeped in ancient tradition. It is the calling of the people to come together to listen to the Dharma or teachings. The temple bell represents the gratitude and deep appreciation of the members, friends, and guests of the Windward Buddhist Temple. Please sit quietly in your seat. If you are able, please rise for the meditation, followed by the chanting of the Vandana and Ti-Sarana by the congregation in Pali and English, which can be found in the red Jodo Shinshu Service book on page 7. Sangam Saranam
for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namanda, 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 namanda.
Please be seated. Today's sutra is Gassho to Amida, which can be found in the Jodo Shinshu Service book on page 123. That's the red book.
I recite Amida's name with deep joy and gratitude. I Gassho to Amida, trees and grasses and flowers all grow in great compassion. This light shines throughout the world. I Gassho to Amida. Flowers bloom and flowers fall. From the seed sprout new flowers. This is the truth unchanging. I Gassho to Amida. Springtime brings the happy birds. Their songs all praise Amida. I join them in Nembutsu. I Gassho to Amida. When I call Amida's name, it's Amida calling me. Buddha's voice, my voice are one. I Gassho to Amida. When I'm lonely, I recite Namo Amida Butsu. Then I feel great compassion. I Gassho to Amida. Nembutsu in work and play, every day with Amida, every moment filled with light. I Gassho to Amida. Remember the golden chain, kindness to all living things. I will follow this teaching. I Gassho to Amida. In the clear bright morning sun, in the fading light of day, in the darkness of the night, I Gassho to Amida. Namo Amida Butsu. I live in great compassion. This great power guides my life. I Gassho to Amida.
If you are able, please rise for the recitation Homages in the Jodo Shinshu Service Book on page 2. Hard it is to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult it is to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear them. If we do not gain emancipation in this present life, we may not be free from ill-faring in the ocean of births and deaths for kalpas. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures.
We go to the Buddha for guidance. May we always walk in the way that leads to enlightenment. We go to the Dharma for guidance. May we be submerged in the depths of the teachings and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. We go to the Sangha for guidance. May we all with one accord live the life of harmony in the spirit of oneness, free from the bondage of selfishness.
Even through myriads of kalpas, hard it is to hear such excellent and profound teachings. Now we are able to hear and receive them. Let us try to understand the Tathagata's teachings. Please continue to stand for the Gatha, Quest of Life, in the praises of the Buddha book. Yeah? On page 164, in the purple. Please be seated. Today for our Dharma Talk, our speaker will be our own Reverend Minister Saul Kalu.
Hello. Take this off. All right, let's put our hands together in Gassho. When the time comes for Shinjin, indestructible as diamond, to become settled, Amida grasps and protects us with compassionate light, so that we part forever from birth and death. From the Wasan of Shinran Shonin. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, everyone. It's aloha, and it's good to be back after my 2 weeks vacation in the Philippines. And it was very hot over there, very oppressive heat, humid. So I'm glad to be back in Hawaii. Yeah, it's hot, but it's not as bad. But I was happy too that I was able to go home to my mother's home province after so many years of absence. And then I was able to visit her urn, which is inurned in a family mausoleum back in her hometown. And I met some long-distance relatives, some of whom I met only for the first time in my life. I didn't even know them, but hey, all of a sudden, you are related to me. Okay? Wow, okay, that's fine. There were prayer sessions, believe it or not, when I was there, and I felt out of place because I was the only Buddhist in there in that group. Although the prayers were very familiar because I knew them from my childhood, I felt that it sounded so foreign already because I've been a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist for a long time. But I should feel home according to what a lot of people believe about Buddhists, especially Japanese Buddhism, because they think, Japanese Buddhism is for the dead. And so they think. And that is a rather sad thing, that a lot of people misunderstand Buddhism as merely a religion for funerals and memorial services. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The Buddha's teachings is for living people, not the departed ones, although those who have passed away are to be remembered through the spirit of the Dharma. But although death is an unpleasant thing to ponder upon, the teachings of the Buddha says that it is a reality that everyone will encounter someday, no exceptions. So that's why funerals and memorial services are still an integral part of a temple's activity. The propagation of the Buddha's teachings, however, is and should be the primary focus of why a temple exists. Still, the reality that we encounter the deaths of people as part of our job as ministers here and also as members of the Sangha, including people we know, on a personal basis. And we still do funerals and memorial services for them. Matter of fact, this month I have one at Nuuanu, and that's probably the last one I will officiate because I'm retiring. But honestly speaking, funeral services are something that I would rather not do often if it can be helped. When I did my first funerals and memorial services since I started working as a minister in 2010, it was all called deja vu. It's all of a sudden, it's a memory that came back. Meeting that again, it felt like I was back in the healthcare profession because I was a nurse before, where death is the ultimate enemy that we were constantly fighting against. Only this time, as a minister, the battle is over. everything is now spiritual because the person has already passed away. And as much as modern medical knowledge and technology would allow, medical professionals keep people alive and try to delay deaths. For it does not require any religious belief to understand that human life is very precious and fragile. Whether one believes in a religion or not, almost every person likes to live, and death is something that is not pleasant and to be avoided at all costs. There is fear of the unknown, of what lies beyond this life we are living at the moment. There is fear of becoming non-existent. We grieve during the loss of our loved ones, not only because we are no longer with a person or persons we love, but also encountering this thing called death serves as a painful reminder of our own mortality, that someday we too will go the same way and cease to exist in this world. Unless we have sufficient faith in our religious beliefs, most of us avoid talking about this thing, let alone think about that. It is out of ignorance of not knowing what's on the other side that evokes fear and anxiety about dying. Nobody has died and came back to describe the realm of the afterlife. Do you believe that? Or is that really the case? A few years ago, while serving at Makawa Hongwanji in Maui, one of the members there lent me a book entitled Dying to Be Me. I promised and boasted to read the book in 2 days, but it actually took me 3 months to finish the book from cover to cover. The author of that book is a woman named Anita Morjani. And in this book, the author relates how, after fighting cancer for almost 4 years, her body began shutting down, overwhelmed by the malignant cells spreading throughout her system. As her organs failed, she lost consciousness and entered into an extraordinary state called near-death experience, NDE, where she realized her inherent worth and the actual cause of her disease. Upon regaining consciousness, she found that her condition had improved so rapidly that she was released from the hospital within weeks without a trace of cancer in her body. It seems like an incredible story of miracle healing. These things do happen sometimes in the healthcare field. But I am more interested in the part where she described her near-death experience while in the hospital for cancer treatment. What is a near-death experience, by the way? A near-death experience, or NDE to abbreviate it, refers to a personal experience associated with impending and actual clinical death, encompassing multiple sensations including detachment from the body, feelings of levitation, sensations including total serenity, security, warmth, the experience of absolute dissolution, and the presence of a very bright, intense light. These phenomena oftentimes are reported after an individual has been pronounced clinically dead or has been very close to death. Usually these are people whose vital functions like heartbeat, breathing, and brain activity have stopped, but somehow, after resuscitation attempts, they are revived and able to describe their experience while being actually in a state of death. There are documented cases in hospitals in the United States and around the world of how patients who have been pronounced dead by the doctors came back to life a few minutes after their heartbeat and breathing has stopped. This is what is called in the medical profession the Lazarus syndrome. I don't know if you know about the story of Lazarus in the Bible, but that is by a story of Lazarus, a person who has been dead for several days already and miraculously brought back to life by Jesus Christ. Essentially, people who had this near-death experience were actually medically dead, but for reasons which can't be explained scientifically, return to a state of being alive again. Most, although not all, of the recorded near-death experiences share common traits. These common traits include the person describing entering a tunnel of an intense, pure, bright light, seeing his past departed loved ones or spirits and communicating with them. The spirits or departed loved ones usually telling the dying person, "Go back. It is not your time yet to die." And this is a very common thing, So those of you who have access to computer, you can actually read stories from all around the world. And the website is named NDERF, Near Death Experience Research Foundation. Yeah, they're all updated. Yeah, every month they have stories about people undergoing this experience. And it's not only unique to Christians, but to Buddhists, to Taoists, and to those who don't have even any religion. Other people report floating out of their bodies, called out-of-body experience, while in the operating or emergency room, and seeing all the doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals working frantically to revive them, to bring them back to life. Now, medical science cannot explain precisely why some people who have been dead and revived undergo this experience of near death. One of the theories is that when a person's heartbeat stops, blood flow to the brain is interrupted and the brain gets deprived of oxygen, which then triggers a release of chemicals and hormones in response, and these substances act like drugs and induce hallucinations. The dead or dying person may not have been completely dead yet, and these hormones or chemicals released by the brain produce that sensation of seeing bright lights, leaving one's own body, seeing angels, gods, Buddhas, and other spiritual beings, and so on. But this theory cannot explain why many who died and came back to life were able to describe details of what the doctors and nurses were doing and saying during the time they were trying to revive them. After being revived, these near-death patients were able to identify faces and uniforms, words exchanged by the healthcare professionals during the resuscitation attempt, recollection of people whom they have never met before in their lives. And in one intriguing case, a patient who was revived asked his nurse, he was brought back to life, and he said, "Nurse, can I have my dentures, because I have to eat in a few minutes?" Which the nurse took off, because, they had to put a tube into his mouth while they were resuscitating him. When the nurse told him, "I forgot where I placed your dentures," the patient told her exactly which drawer in his room where she had placed the dentures. An accurate guess? Perhaps, except for the fact that the nurse had never been assigned to take care of that patient before, and he was able to identify her precisely as the one who removed his dentures while being resuscitated. And he knew exactly the place where the nurse had put away his dentures. If a near-death experience is just hallucinations, then the person who undergoes this hallucination should not be able to describe anything accurately while in a death-like state. Most of the documented cases of near-death experience report that the ones who experience this near-death say that while entering the tunnel of light, of bright light, there was no fear, no pain, no discomfort, and everything was a feeling of warmth and peace. However, a small percentage of the documented cases report of going into dark, abysmal places, seeing malevolent beings like demons, feeling fear, discomfort, and seeing what they describe as hell. It is a rather unfortunate thing that in almost my 30 years of experience working as a nurse in the ICU, or cardiac unit, and I have participated in a lot of resuscitation attempts before patients dying. I have never encountered a patient who was successfully revived and reported a near-death experience. Usually, after restarting their hearts back to beating regularly, patients stay in a coma for a brief period. They wake up and just tell us that they do not remember anything of their coming very close to real clinical death. It would have been an interesting field of study if I had actually encountered a person who literally came back from the dead. Whether the experience of near death was pleasant or peaceful, or fearsome and unpleasant, one thing in common happened to those who had this experience. They were all transformed spiritually in one way or another. People who previously did not believe in any religion found themselves accepting religion. People who were already religious when they encountered near death became even more devout in their beliefs. People who were previously self-centered and uncaring now became compassionate and considerate of others. People who once feared death are now able to accept it. It is perhaps because they have the unique experience of dying and coming back to life, and that the dying that they had undergone was a peaceful, painless, and fearless experience, rather than the fearsome, painful, and anxiety-ridden characteristic of death that they had imagined all their lives, except, of course, those who have encountered the evil entities or visions of hellish realms. And one other amazing thing is, this near-death experience phenomenon has been experienced by people of different religious beliefs, yes, including Buddhists from around the world. Buddhists who have survived a near-death experience report out-of-body experiences, encountering the being of clear light, which could be the Buddha himself, Amida Buddha, and the central message that these near-death experiencers bring back is that the essential and most important qualities in life are love and knowledge. In Buddhist terms, it is what? Compassion and wisdom. Indeed, the two essences that makes a person a real Buddha. Whether near-death experiences are only hallucinations or a proof of an afterlife will remain debatable with medical scientists until more data becomes available through further studies. I am sorry to sound so pessimistic, talking about a subject that nobody wants to hear. But Shakyamuni Buddha actually taught that to meditate on death is not becoming pessimistic about it, but rather to see it as a natural part of the cycle of life in samsara, or the world of delusion and ignorance. Our physical bodies are compounded, created out of material things in the universe, and such are subject to the laws of impermanence. But the consciousness in us that carries on to the next life continues until we are free ourselves from the bondage of birth and death through enlightenment and attainment of Buddhahood. The purpose of the Buddha's teaching on death is not to instill fear of this natural part of the process of living, but rather the opposite way, to reduce our fear of it out of ignorance. Just as the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni, died a natural death of his physical body to reach final enlightenment or parinirvana, so too will the death of our physical bodies enable us to realize the ultimate realm of peace, tranquility, and joy that is Amida Buddha's Pure Land. Although when we are grasped and never to be abandoned by Amida Buddha's compassion, in this life, our minds and hearts will be capable of spiritually perceiving that Pure Land, even while still alive in a physical body. However, I wouldn't want to undergo the experience of near death to find out what the other side of reality is. I still fear death. I don't want to think about it or talk about it, although I'm doing it right now, except in the course of doing my job, once as a nurse and also a minister. It is my blind passion, my bon no, to fear and loathe death. And at this point in my spiritual journey in life, I haven't rid myself of that fear yet. But as a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, I do not try to deny death as an inseparable part of physical existence. It will happen to me someday. That is 100% sure. It is guaranteed to happen to anyone. Only the time of death is not certain. Understanding the process of dying can help us come to terms with this inevitable part of life. Given that death is a stark reality that can happen to me at any time in my life, it only strengthens my resolve to entrust myself to the promise of Amida Buddha's primal vow that assures me of rebirth in a realm where death no longer exists. It requires a true leap of faith to be able to completely entrust in the workings of the primal vow. That entrusting heart of faith, or Shinjin, is the decisive cause of our birth in the Pure Land, according to Shinran. There is no other way to conquer death, for it cannot be defeated outside the realm of enlightenment. In the Pure Land, death ceases to be an enemy to be subdued. It no longer exists, for the Pure Land is the realm of Amida, the Buddha of limitless life and light. Amitabha and Amitayus, that's the meaning of that, limitless. Lastly, the title I chose for this Dharma message is You Only Live Twice. It is not about the James Bond movie back in the 60s, but rather the meaning is you only live twice. Once when you're born physically, and once when you look death in the face. And that is looking at death in the face without fear. Let's put our hands together in Gassho and conclude with the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.
If you are able, please rise for the Gatha, Ondokusan, and Gratefulness that are on the screen. And continue to stand for the Nembutsu on page 145 of the Red Book.
Oh is a great torch in the long night of ignorance. Do not sorry that your eyes of wisdom are dark. It is a ship on the vast ocean of birth and death. Do not grieve that your obstructions, karmic evil, are heavy. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Namo Namo.
Please be seated. This concludes our service for today. We will have a few announcements by President Dennis Tashiro.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Reverend Saul, for that deep, sometimes sad, but very important message. Thank you, Linda, for being our MC today. Thank you, Merle, for being the greeter. Thank you, Lisa, for playing the piano. And, of course, Ryan, who's recording this service. We have some guests. Welcome to the family of, let me make sure I read this right, Katie, Ryan, Ari, and Edna Schulz. Welcome. And formerly of Maui, Clyde and Gail Hamai. They're actually distant relative. My sister's husband and Clyde are brothers. Interesting fact, the Gatha we sang, heck, I forgot the name of the Gatha. Quest of Life, was written by Clyde's sister, Geraldine Hamai. So, and welcome back to Melissa and family. Good to see you. Okay, today's the second Sunday of the month, which means after refreshments, we're going to have bingo. Okay, who's lucky today? Next Sunday will be a regular family service and Father's Day service. Reverend Saul will be leading the service, and Neil Yamamoto will be our speaker. After next Sunday service and refreshment, we will be doing temple cleanup. So your help would be greatly appreciated. This Wednesday, June 11, we will be visiting the Waimanalo Japanese Cemetery to place flowers on the graves and have a short memorial service. It is the start of the Obon season, so we'll place little lanterns or chochin. If you are still interested, there's still time, so you can put your name on the sign-up sheet that's on the table in the back there. Now we have some announcement by Merle.
Okay, just a reminder, we are still gearing up for Bon Dance, which will be July 12th. And we are taking people's donations for the ingredients for the food booth. So if you want to sign up for that, we also are signing up volunteers to help, whether it be for Friday to string and cut the meat, Saturday to make the spam musubi, and Saturday night to work in the booth. And I know that Cynthia is also looking for volunteers for the bazaar. And we also need assistance for putting up the Yagura the Saturday before and decorating the Yagura that morning. Lots of things going on for Bon Dance, so please step up and help us. I have the sign-up sheet for the donation of the food items to make the concession work. So if you can give me a hand with that and step forward and tell me if you're able to help us, and if you want to bring in your nephew, your nieces, grandchildren, we welcome all their help. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Well, if not, Oh, I'm sorry. Bob had an announcement.
I have a few announcement about books. Reverend Bird donated some books, so please look at in the back. There's a definition of a Buddhist on the bottom. I'm going to use it as the bookend, so it's going to be on the bottom. Although usually I put it as the author, but in this case I'm going to be in the bottom. I'm going to use it as a bookend. So if you don't mind, if you want to look at it, you can look at it and borrow. And there's also anybody interested in kanji, how to look up your kanji, this on the left side of it. So feel free to browse. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And thank you for maintaining our library. There's very interesting books there. If you have a chance to look through it, not only for adults, but there are some great children's books as well. Okay, now we'll have words of thanksgiving for refreshments. The words will be on the screen. We are truly grateful for this wonderful food, a gift of life. May we share its benefits with all beings. As we partake of this food, let us remember Amida Buddha's compassion, which surrounds all people and all forms of life. Namo Amida Butsu. Itadakimasu. Thank you.